Hello, everyone, and welcome to STOked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man. A couple of things are funky about this episode.
What?
First of all, it's a winter episode, so we're drinking this Alaskan winter ale.
We're also drinking because it's Friday.
Yeah, we're shooting this on a Friday.
Yeah.
And that's unusual for us. We're usually live Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, but the holiday season makes things a little bumpy. So
Family, parties,
things like that.
public appearances.
Yeah, the adoring
dressing up
public
as Santa
appearances.
Claus, things
Really?
like that.
You're going to do it?
Probably at least once.
That's adorable.
I've got the assets. Why not use them?
Yeah, girl. I'll cheers to that. Let's go, sister. Oh, yeah. No, so we just wanted to say sorry to the folks that usually tune in Saturday morning expecting a live STOked. You're probably watching this now in the recorded version, wondering what happened. That's what happened. But you know what? A good amount of people joined us today and are in the chat room with us, and they're talking. So we're going to get into some stuff because there's been a lot happening in the STO world this last week.
Well, the biggest news probably is that Season 3 has finally landed.
Definitely.
For better or worse.
Whoa. Whoa, that sounds a little judgy right out of the gate.
You know what? I'll go on record as saying a lot judgy.
Really?
Because Season 3 has fallen short of my expectations. Let's just put it that way. Now, I got to admit, there are a lot of great things in this patch. They've got the updated contact UI. They've got the updated sector space. All the crafting revamps, which I will go into detail on a math segment soon.
Yep, next segment.
But, we're not getting the Foundry. Which I know we kind of knew that was coming. For like a month and a half now, we knew that the Foundry was not going to land.
There was like an initial period, we were discussing this on the live stream earlier, there was like this initial period where like, definitely for a period of time, we thought the Foundry, or UGC at that time, was going to be Season 3.
Right.
Plus some patches.
Yeah.
And that's probably because that's kind of what STO came on the show and said, essentially, in an interview.
Yeah.
But, details. But...
Well, once upon a time, they called it the Secret Project, and that was Season 3.
Right. But I think what we did get from Season 3, when you talk about all the stuff you just said, is a great season release.
Yeah.
And the Foundry is an open beta now. It's been down. Now it's back up. And as of today, it's up again. People have to redo their missions. They have to republish them. But it sounds like they fixed
all the content was saved. It was just you have to republish.
So... do you want to say anything else, or can I tell you my thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I've got one more negative thing. Actually two.
Okay.
The Borg Special Task Force pieces that we were going on and on about how pretty they were and how awesome it's going to be didn't make it.
Right.
Furthermore, massive server instability. Like, on the level we haven't seen since, I think, Season 1.
I did not get a chance to get on with it.
It was fixed by this morning.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they did manage to track it down. So good on you. They got quick turnaround on that. But they launched a patch with this massive inability to play the game.
But there's a pretty good chance something like that isn't even found until you reach a certain scale.
That's true.
Because it's probably something that involves, X number of players.
Right.
But you're right, sucks that it's there. But they did get a good turnaround because I didn't even notice it.
Right.
Now, can I...
Yeah.
All right.
I'm done hating.
Here's my thing about Season 3.
Do your thing.
Season 3.
I'll stop ranting, and I won't interrupt.
Okay. We'll see about that. If you go back, I'm pretty confident this is like one of those things I'd be willing to put like $20 on. If you go back into the STOked archive, before the game came out, and then after it came out, and there was a little bit of hubbub. Some people, the early reviews were bad. Putting a $20 down on the table right now. Here's what I believe I said.
I might pull it back when you make your statement.
Give this game 9 months to a year, and it will have a lot of polish, and it'll have everything that it should have had at launch. And that's exactly where we're at right now. I think we're there. I think once you take all the improvements plus Season 3, and if we wanted to see this game when we got to see it ever, it had to ship when it shipped. Now I think it's a pretty polished MMO. And I think it stands up now as a strong MMO, just as an MMO contender in the market, just on the grounds of the features that it now has.
I agree with you almost across the board.
All right.
There's only one major feature that I disagree with, and that is the Klingon content. The level of Klingon content or lack thereof.
You got me there. It's definitely not a WoW, Horde, and whatever.
Horde versus Alliance, yeah.
Alliance. Hey, speaking of which, Cataclysm came out.
Yeah. Whatever.
How about that? So I think you're right on that regard, though. We did see some KDF updates.
We did. With this new patch, they launched that new series of patrols in the Pycanis sector. So first of all, that included opening Pycanis, which is a big thing for Klingons. If you think about it, it's the start of what could be a snowball effect. An entire new portion of the STO universe opened for that faction.
I totally think so.
I want to see a lot more. I want to see every sector added.
It always really bugged me that you couldn't.
Yeah.
So this is big.
Yep.
But I realized they would have to roll it out, but this is big.
The other thing that this does, though, is this also launches an entirely new type of content for the Klingons. It scales up, so it's available to anybody at any time. You were doing it Lieutenant. I was doing it Lieutenant Commander. I saw Brigadier Generals flying around doing the same content.
Yep.
So, it's a new option to grind. It's still a grind. They are patrols. They're not the best content in the world, but having new options for content is always going to be a good thing.
And they kind of have a Klingon slant to them.
They do, absolutely.
And I think they feel uniquely KDF, and they do not feel like Federation missions that are ported. And that's a win there.
Yes.
And I also happen to like them, but I happen to like jumping into a star cluster and spending 2 hours in there doing space combat.
Where it's not always necessary to invest your brain power in what you're doing. Yeah.
Now, there's definitely times where that's not the case. That's just an occasional gameplay mode. I happen to feel like if I am not in that mode, I can't really play my Klingon much.
Because you want to be invested in something, and there's not usually something to invest in.
Right. Today, I was playing during lunch, and I just had some time to kill. I took an extra long lunch because it's Friday. What's up? and the Klingon was perfect for that. But I immediately started to feel like, I am not really invested. I don't even know core. Okay, I know my Klingon character's name, but barely. I really don't care.
You have to think about it.
I don't care. So you're right in that regard. It's not as completely competitive, but
the optional wrapper, the Way of the Warrior thing, I think is an excellent concept. A little hit and miss in execution. Some of the missions, I think, are not really scaled properly for especially low-level characters.
Example, sir.
Or non-groups. Well, the one that you just played right before we played, where you have to disable 3 freighters while you're being attacked by feds.
And loot them.
Before they get a chance to repair themselves and take off again.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do the optional, you have to do 5. Neither of us actually succeeded in even making it to 3.
Now, we're lower level, but
yeah.
So the challenge is that, and it's just that, it's a challenge. They're going at a slightly higher pace than your standard engine speed takes you. Plus, you're in combat, and when you're in combat, you can't loot.
Right.
So it's you want to catch them before they reach their destination, but you want to disable them so they don't keep going that fast while you're also taking on 2 Federation ships.
I think that if I was playing this same mission as my identical ship, my Federation captain, I would have enough tools at my disposal and be able to pump out enough damage to be able to
Sensor jam comes to
easily
mind.
succeed, even against ships that were my own level. Yeah, sensor jam,
Photonic
scramble
fleet.
sensors, photonic fleet, all these different things that I could do to quickly disable the freighters, quickly disable the escorts, and then loot the freighters. But as a low-level character...
I think together, grouped, we could have done it.
I think so, too. I think that if you're out there playing this as a low-level Klingon, get a buddy. At least one buddy. I would recommend 2.
How can you, on any grounds, consider that bad content? Because it gives you something to play solo when you get to a higher level, and it gives you a reason to socialize. A game-functional reason to socialize.
I don't necessarily consider it bad content. The only argument that I have against it is that if it is designed for groups, it should say it at some point.
Yeah.
It should tell you in the mission
you might want to bring a friend, Captain.
Yeah,
like that.
Bring a fellow captain.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just really simple stuff. I don't think it's bad content.
Yeah.
Really, the gripes that I have are minor.
Okay, just sound like a little negative Nancy a little bit.
I think I'm just in a bad mood.
No, I mean...
It's been a tough week, guys.
Yeah, it's fair with the KDF stuff. It honestly is. I have felt content dry up there on me already as I've just gone through that. I get bored. And then I jump back over to my Federation side. And that's why I think the mission replay is a nice thing. Right now, in between weekly episodes, there's not always something I want to do. I wish I didn't have to travel.
Yeah.
I know that's a small thing, but this game involves so much travel that it'd be nice to be able to not have to travel. And I would not be surprised to see that link to our holodeck one day.
Yeah.
In our ship.
I'd love to see that. They actually improved travel on the ground, at least. With this patch, they introduced what people are calling super sprint.
I love it. It's really nice.
You can run forever.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have to run forever if Space Dock wasn't so huge and sprawling. I'm just pointing it out.
Do you want to save the crafting stuff for the math segment?
Yes,
okay.
I will. But,
So
you were mentioning the replayability of these KDF sorties. Great.
Okay.
Awesome. And to take that even larger, they added the whole replay functionality to the game for Feds and for Klingons so that any mission you want to play at any point, you can play again. Not only that, you get special rewards for doing so.
Yeah.
On almost every mission, you can either re-earn the original reward or a special reward.
Right.
Now, I'm actually going to go back and do this with my Fed characters and send the stuff to my Klingon.
Aha.
Yeah. Because a lot of them are...
It's not?
No, not until you actually equip it.
Okay, good. Well, that's nice. That's a good reason to do
Great
it.
added feature.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying. I don't want to have to travel.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I didn't have to travel. Hook it to my holodeck, something like that.
But it's so
Any
much
mission.
easier to travel as my vice admiral because I've got slipstream.
Oh.
You know, which is like space super sprint.
Shut your face. With your slipstream, Jeremy. I want that. Okay, so the mission replay, cool. Also gives you something to do on your ship. I think 2 episodes ago I critiqued that you wouldn't know it's there unless you read the forum post or you already had a reason to go to your ship, and you don't really have another reason at the moment.
Right.
Hopefully down the road you will. But
I was actually seeing some forum threads about that, like how do I access it? Where do I go to find it? It is tribal knowledge, as you called it before. It's something that somebody's going to have to tell you, and they're going to have to have found it by seeking it out.
Until there's more reasons to go there.
Yep.
Just saying, that'd be nice. Like maybe
season 4.
A built-in podcast player for
Right.
STOked.
Right.
That'd be something.
I wouldn't argue with that.
Hey, do you want to cover anything else in Season 3 before we move on to this Design the Enterprise
Just a
contest?
few really quick things. You know, we did mention the contact UI got updated.
Yes, big improvement.
It's awesome. We
Yeah.
talked about that several episodes ago, and they changed the background skybox in Earth Space Dock and around Earth.
I think I noticed I can't remember the exact details, but the looking out the windows of Earth Space Dock just looked a lot more epic now too. I think there's a shape. Some of the different shapes of Earth Space Dock are different slants or something. It just looks a lot better.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
And Earth. Yeah. I don't know. You know what really seems like an eyesore there is the captain's table area. I hate seeing that thing up in the corner.
I agree.
You know what they should have done is put it on the moon.
Or hide it behind the moon.
Yeah.
So you don't have to see it.
Yeah. All right.
But then there'd be threads about, how do I get there?
Joe, let's talk about this Design the Enterprise contest.
Let's do it. And we talked about it a couple episodes ago when it was first announced. Had to release the sad news that it's available for U.S. only.
Yeah.
Now, that's still a kind of a sore point for a lot of people, but it comes down to legalities. There's just no way around it.
Yeah.
There's also, actually, you can't do it in like Iowa and Maryland and Tennessee.
Really?
There's some state laws that have, like tax laws and stuff like that are making it off limits to,
I'm sure all the details are on the site,
folks in the states.
That's too bad. Do you want to look at a couple submissions that we've seen?
Yeah,
so
let's
far?
do it. I'm excited.
This first one I like quite a bit, Jeremy. It's from somebody named Isaac, and this is his idea. Now, Jeremy, you don't have to actually design the ship. You can just kind of submit a picture of it, too.
I guess, yeah.
Some people have submitted their drawings, which look pretty interesting, and some other people have designed other things.
That one's a pure win right there. I'm going to vote for that.
I do like that one, yeah. So
it's just so classic, iconic, really.
If you're listening to the audio version, there's some interesting designs in here. I don't know if any of them are gonna be considered winners so far. It's harder to design a ship than it looked.
But this is one of the really interesting points: is the first round of this is being voted on by you, by the audience. And then after they've narrowed it down to the top 25, then it will go to a panel of judges.
Yeah. So before we sign off into math, I think there's probably we covered some KDF updates.
We did.
I kind of wanted to give a shout out to some of the other stuff in there. I think specifically the biggest change is highlighted in the show notes, but just to sum it up, you've got Pycanis opened up now. There's a lot of these now. I don't remember the name.
They're called sorties.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a military term. I'm not well versed enough to really say exactly what that is. I could have gone with a different word. Maybe, I don't know, raiding parties.
I wanted to sign off just on my final kind of closing thoughts on the Klingon updates. I know we've kind of jumped around a lot, but it's kind of been, as we go down the list, different things have triggered our memories. I think there's been an optional gameplay component added to a lot of these sorties, and the ones that I liked was the jam communications. I thought that one was cool because using the new pop-up dialogue that tells you, they've detected us, they're trying to use communications, and firing off your jam communications and getting a sound effect. And the Klingons are classic. They're one of their classic maneuvers, the Klingons are jamming our communications.
Right.
So it's a fun little extra gameplay component that you add to it. I like it.
I don't disagree. The placement of the button was a little like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
The first time, but then it's repeated a number of times, so it doesn't take you long to accept it. The problem I had was actually trying to blow things up fast enough so they couldn't break through my jamming. Again, I think that is a problem that will be addressed as I level up and get more abilities on my ship.
On the lower level ships, you really got to be kind of strategic about it. You got to plan your attack.
And you have to make sure you're focusing on the same shield facing. If they try to turn away from you, you got to prevent that.
Yeah, you know what? I like that gameplay mechanic, and it's uniquely KDF mission component now.
Yep.
It's jamming sensors or jamming communications is totally a Klingon thing, so I like that too.
Yep. Now the other thing that I meant to mention earlier is unlocking Pycanis, unlocking these new missions has also enabled Klingons to harvest anomalies and begin crafting.
Yep.
I think that's a really big thing for the KDF, actually, especially with the recent crafting revamp, which, again, I'll talk about more in detail in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah.
All right, J-Man. Let's get mathed.
Like crafting. That's right. With the most recent changes made to STO's crafting system, it's finally beginning to resemble the time-honored act of assembling gadgets with your bare hands. Very manly. However, be forewarned that this system has been balanced for characters that invest in crafting alongside their usual leveling progress as they rise from Lieutenant to Grand Moff or whatever the top rank is. For characters that are already at or near the leveling cap, it's going to require some backtracking and revisiting of low-end areas of the universe. There are 6 ranks of anomalies, each with 3 separate variants. As you progress, your needs will gradually grow from one rank to the next. But due to the universal necessity of schematics, which are only crafted using rank 1 junk, you'll either need to spend a lot of time in the low areas right off the bat, or be ready to return there on a regular basis. These areas that offer these much-needed low-end harvests are Delta Volantis and the Arcanus arms for Feds, or the T'Ong Nebula for KDF. Learn to love them, you'll be here a lot. And just how much harvesting will you need to do? Well, a good friend of mine has decided to level up his crafting skills exclusively on schematics. This crazy nutball is going to have to obtain a whopping 1,650 anomalies, at a rate that ranges between 2 and 5 about every 30 seconds. In an absolute perfect world situation, this would still take him more than 4.5 hours to get all of the anomalies required to reach maximum rank. And then, another 15 to 20 minutes of mindlessly clicking and clicking and clicking to grind through the schematics. But he wouldn't get any neat stuff. And that's really why you're crafting, right? While this approach nets you the end goal of maxing out your crafting, you have nothing to show for it, and no materials with which to craft the high-end gadgets you've now unlocked. And so you'll have to head back out to the nearest exploration nebula to pick up more crafty bits. So, is there a better alternative, you ask? Well, no, not really. Since the majority of recipes give just as many skill points as the amount of data samples it took to craft it, no route to level up is more efficient than another from that standpoint, except that crafting higher skill recipes requires fewer schematics in the end, meaning less low-end grind harvesting. But really, that's just a time trade-off based on the traveling that would be required to go after anomalies of the various different ranks. The exception to this being recipes that require rare trace particles, but you should really be saving these for the high-end gear that you'll eventually be able to craft. Now, one tip to look into as you grind your way to max, if you're just going to dump your products on the nearest Ferengi, focus your crafting efforts on engines, shields, and deflectors. The energy credit return on investment is much better on these ship-based items than you will receive on other products. Now, as for the actual harvesting of samples, I'd like to show you an easy way to win the minigame every single time. It's pretty simple. As soon as you begin the scanning animation, cut your engines and shift your hand over to the arrow keys and prepare to use them. Once the wavelength shows up, use the up and down arrows first to line up the top and the bottom of the wave. Once you have this portion of the wavelength set, it's pretty painless to adjust the left and right axis until it matches up. Using this method, I've never failed to successfully complete the challenge and get the extra harvests. Now, it should be noted that if you have no interest in the rare particle traces, you can simply press F as soon as the minigame launches to quickly fail and get your base harvest. The final recommendation I have for anyone wishing to become a skilled crafter is to tell your buddies. Chances are that 1 out of every 2 or 3 folks that you notify of your intentions is likely to be sympathetic to your cause, and willing to donate the anomalies that are gathering dust in their cargo holds. Skilling up is a bajillion times easier when the raw materials are being fed your way by a conveyor belt of donations. Fleets obviously have a leg up in this regard, as their bank space can be utilized as a central depository. In other words, don't be shy about your habits. Be loud and proud about your infatuation with assembling junk into other junk. If all goes according to plan, you too will soon be flitting about the universe in a shiny new Aegis set as soon as they go live to holodeck. And until that glorious day is upon us, please help yourself to the various links and resources I've included in the show notes that will get you well on your way to becoming the next great creator of thingies. And until next time, everybody, you got mathed!
Yeah, I think that's important.
Welcome to the community feedback segment. Now, before your hopes get too high, I do want to set expectations here.
And we like to keep expectations low around here.
Low as we can. We're not actually going to feature the community highlighted episode. We asked you to send in your best mission to create in UGC. And then we'd pick a few of them, put them up to a vote.
It was scheduled for this week to be the finalists.
We decided to hold for one more week for a couple of reasons. The main reason is the Foundry has been down this last week, and we really want to be sure that anything that people send to us, we can validate from at least a high level in the Foundry, and then also maybe you could as well.
See, you remember last time we did this, we had a winner, which is a great mission.
Yeah.
The invasion of the ship snatchers.
Yes, sir, with a very epic trailer you made for it.
Why, thank you, sir.
I really like that.
We intend to make another trailer for whoever wins this, but we also want to see the process all the way through to the end and make sure that this can be a published, playable mission.
Yeah, we want to basically be able to say at the end of a future Stoked episode, go search for this mission and play it.
Yes.
We just talked about it, now go play it. After, you'll see the process from the trailer on. That means we got to make sure that whatever we pick is buildable.
Yep.
So to help with that, we're going to include a link in our show notes it's a doc created by one of our fellow fleet mates.
It's a nice little template you can follow to kind of lay out an outline to build your mission
and this might help you kind of build, at least from a planning stage, how your mission should flow, and then try to sort of, from a rough outline draft version, create something outline-ish in the Foundry, and just try to validate it, because we'll probably try to do the same.
Another thing that I will plug these guys again, because they're doing some great work over at starbaseugc.com. Not .org. I've called them .org twice now. No, they are .com. They have tutorial videos. They have other walkthroughs available. I think they even have their own template up there of some sort.
Oh, okay.
So great resource for building your Foundry missions, or at least coming up with concepts that can be built.
So keep those coming in. Send your mission ideas to STOked@jupiterbroadcasting.com.
If you've already sent one in, and you would like to send in a revamp version now that you've had your hands on the Foundry, or you've looked at Starbase UGC, just say like disregard prior or something like that.
Or revamped or revamped. Yeah. That way we can search, because we're going to probably have to do a lot of filtering and stuff like that. And then also I invite you to post it over at jupitercolony.com if you'd like maybe public feedback and things like that. There's a Stoked section in there where you could throw that right there, and then everybody gets a chance to look
and some folks have already been doing that, so that if you need some brainstorming help, feel free to check out some of those. They might get your juices flowing.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Stoked. We'll be back next Tuesday. But, we should mention, coming up the week after Christmas, there won't be an episode of Stoked.
That's because Christmas falls on Saturday, which is when we film.
Well, yeah. So,
we're not going to get away from our presents and figgy pudding just for you guys. Come on.
Well, maybe the pudding part. I don't know about that. But there are other stuff for sure. So just want to give you a little bit of a heads up about that. So, down the road kind of thing, but just so that way everybody can kind of plan around. Because, boy, people sometimes hate it when we take a week off.
I know.
And you know what? With that said, you can find us right back here over at jupiterbroadcasting.com next Tuesday. And until then, have a great week.